Hey everyone, it is good to be here. It's great to be back in El Salvador. It's great to be standing before a ton of the most passionate people on the face of the earth from all over the world, the Bitcoiners. It's an honor. So today I kind of want to talk about taking local commerce off the chain. I've spent the better part of the last couple years exploring the intersection between local commerce and Lightning. Trying to figure out where it makes sense, how to piece it together in such a way that's practical and economical, and ways in which we can help to foster a grassroots Bitcoin economy in cities all over the world in an attempt to kind of replicate the amazing work that Bitcoin Beach has done. But first, let's kind of talk about, through my lens, what I'm seeing. First and foremost, something I like to call the e-commerce paradox. It's the fact that although we can buy just about anything online, the reality is that most retail commerce does not take place online. It takes place in store with a swipe of a card or with cash. In Latin America, for example, 96% of retail commerce is done in store. Now that makes sense considering, say, 70 to 80% of people residing in Latin America do not have access to the financial services required to complete these online payments. But then you have the United States, arguably the most developed, technologically advanced country in the world. 85% of commerce is still done in store. So what's the deal? And what's more, that 15% of e-commerce is dominated by the top 10 retailers, your Amazons, Targets, Best Buys, eBays, and so on. 65% of all online sales are done by them. The small businesses, the brick and mortar businesses, they're not anywhere near that list, right? So it was rather unfortunate for these small businesses that do not participate in e-commerce the past couple of years. During all the lockdowns and all those shenanigans, many of those small businesses had to scramble to figure out ways to participate. That increased their costs. It increased the need for employees to train them whenever they were lacking employees. It was tough. And in the meantime, the major corporations were well prepared for this, obviously. I mean, they dominate retail sales already. While we like charts that go up and to the right, this chart depicts businesses getting fucked. Small businesses just got destroyed. And during this time, major corporations increased their market share substantially. In my opinion, one of the major reasons for this, however simple it may be, is something that I just like to call payment processing gravity. In cyberspace, in the payment space, you kind of have these, I guess you could call it a natural law, and it's the fact that if you process a payment online, it's going to cost more than it does in store. Very simple. The major reason for that is because it introduces more fraud, which is more costly, there's more chargebacks, and so on. Now, these major corporations have ways with which they can navigate around some of these things. You know, they're in orbit, they're weightless. They have a lot of different systems and platforms, their own intranets of money, ways in which they can avoid the legacy financial system quite a bit. Like take Starbucks, for example. You can go and buy a gift card from just about anywhere for Starbucks. You can load it into their app, and with that one, say, $100 transaction that didn't even take place from Starbucks, they didn't even process that payment, you can buy 30 coffees from their platform. It doesn't cost them a dime. Now what's more, they also have different deals due to their volumes that they have. They get less payment processing fees. They can almost exert their own gravity in a way. They get so massive, they provide so much value to the consumers, and the more they leverage that, the more they kind of leave these small businesses hanging. It's not as exciting, it's not as appealing, there's no cashback rewards. There's no Starbucks coffee points, there's none of that. There's punch cards, maybe. So while they're high flying in orbit, we have these small businesses just jumping up and down on a trampoline, hoping to escape that pull, but they come right back down. And again, one of the major reasons for that, in my opinion, is in the United States, it's higher in Latin America, but in the United States, you're looking at a 2.6% processing fee, plus 10 cents. Now, if you're buying a $3 cup of coffee, that 10 cents adds an additional 3% effectively. So you're paying 5.6% to buy a coffee or to process that coffee payment as a business. If you were to process that same transaction online, it's going to cost you 2.9% plus 30 cents. That $3 cup of coffee now costs the business 12.9%, and that cup of coffee, the consumer is likely going to be coming into the business, picking it up in person regardless. So why the hell would they sell it online? But by tapping into an online marketplace, you can promote more. You can kind of play the same field that the major corporations are doing, constantly feeding you advertisements and so on, but they don't have that. They have little signs outside their door. They have website no one goes to. They have email blasts no one reads. Their objective isn't necessarily to get you to purchase their products on site and tap into consumer volition. Their objective is to get you to see it and walk in. They'll complete the transaction there. But that puts them at a huge disadvantage. It's just a cost of doing business. And while we all like NGU technology, payment processors like FGU technology. The fees just keep going up. The fraud just keeps going up. And while it seems like the businesses are the ones that are paying for this, it's actually the consumers too. The prices of all of these goods and services are going up to account for the amount that they're paying. And around 2010, whenever you all of a sudden had a ton of people getting into credit card rewards programs, right? It's a big ruse. It's just reappropriation of excessive economic rents. They're basically saying, you're going to pay a higher price, we're going to give you back some rewards, and we're going to make you happy. But the reality is you're only getting about 35% of the processing fees or the increased cost you pay back as rewards. Ultimately, we're just having fun staying poor. Each and every one of us. We fell for it. We totally fell for it. Every day we're all swiping our cards. Now sure, it's more efficient, right? But there was a time, not that long ago, where the cost of processed payments was effectively zero and it was effectively instant. That was cash. Now what's even worse, for those who don't have credit and debit cards, who don't have access to the financial services to enable them to receive those rewards, they're paying the fees and they get nothing back. They're subsidizing the ones who do have access to that. That's fucked up. Now it's important to consider where these fees are actually going. They're going to Wall Street. By and large, the major banks, payment processors, interchange fees, and so on. That's where they're going. The big, giant banks. They effectively get a share, a percentage, multiple percentage points of every single transaction that takes place, even at the local level. The effects of that, I don't think, are thought about too much. Small banks are dying. Small businesses are dying. Small banks provide the majority of the small business loans. Even though they just have 13% of the total market share of the banking industry, they give out 40% of the small business loans. The top 4 banks in the United States, they have 40% of the market share. They give just 16% of the business loans. Small business loans. Small banks are rather important. Community banks are important. They have skin in the game in their communities, and they're dying. They're providing loans to the risk takers in their community, the entrepreneurs trying to provide value to their community, taking all the risk. It sucks. But Lightning fixes this. Lightning fixes this. Now this is a really low-hanging fruit, like I realize, like the payment processing fees are lower, but the second and third order effects of this for local e-commerce could be incredible, unfathomable. Not only does it make for a more equitable playing field in the e-commerce space, right? Now you have small businesses that can kind of gain a foothold and compete with the major corporations of the world. They can offer their own cashback rewards. We have programmable money now. They can give Bitcoin sats back rewards. They can accept payments. The gravity that we talked about earlier is reversed. It is now cheaper to accept a payment online and comes with more guarantees, meaning less fraud. There are no chargebacks. It is now cheaper to process a payment online than it is in store for the first time ever. Simple. But think about it. We are here. Internet adoption is fairly ubiquitous. While it's intermittent in some regions of the world and it's not ideal, most people have access to the internet. But as we stated earlier, very few people, well, very little of retail commerce is done online. And here we find kind of the commingling of the Internet of Information, sending data over the internet, with the Internet of money, the Internet of value, being able to actually send value over the internet. And when those two mix, it changes things. The way I see it, what I'm seeing is that we are embarking over the next decade on a crazy e-commerce revolution. It seems as though we've already had it, not even close. So what I've been spending a lot of my time on over the past couple of years is trying to align the incentives to help take local commerce off the chain, help take it onto Lightning, help align the incentives of the consumers, giving them the opportunity to earn Bitcoin rewards, an incentive to pay in Bitcoin, say with Strike or their own Lightning wallet or whatever they want, providing businesses with the tools to market and promote their local goods and services, accepting Bitcoin and issue those rewards, running interesting promotions, leveraging Lightning and programmable money to do so, and tapping into the most passionate people, as I said earlier, on the face of the earth, the Bitcoiners, giving them the tool to go to their community, talk to businesses. Don't just talk to them about central banking and inflation, very important, but actually talk to them about a product that can help them now and actually get paid to talk about Bitcoin. I never shut up about Bitcoin as it is. Don't pay me to do it. That's, man. So really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to convince people to swipe less. Stop swiping your card. Stop going from your card to all the banks and financial intermediaries, payment processors, and then to the business. Go straight from you over the Lightning Network to the business and give the businesses the opportunity to leverage the inefficiencies or arbitrage the inefficiencies of the legacy financial system and reward their customers in Bitcoin. Give them sats back. Keep it local. A Bitcoin circular economy, right? The mythical Bitcoin circular economy. Local spending generates community wealth. And Bitcoin protects wealth communities create. No longer are we getting charged to send financial ones and zeros over a digital medium. Whether businesses are leveraging Bitcoin, the asset, to protect themselves from inflation in the future, to preserve their wealth, or they're using Bitcoin, the network, to protect themselves from the siphoning of wealth from their community in the present. That's what we're trying to do here. And the 96% we talked about earlier, they're going digital. They're going digital right now. They're embracing a technology that makes sense to them. I don't have to explain to them about inflation, right? If I search on my phone right now for Victoria's pupuseria, it's not going to show up. She's not on there. She's not on traditional rails. She doesn't have access to that, but now she does. And if you buy 4 pupusas, you get 25% sats back. Like, it's crazy. She can pre-sell her pupusas. You can go pick them up in store. What does that enable for people? Caesar, awesome dude, amazing Bitcoin evangelist, surf instructor, Bitcoin beach lifeguard. He normally goes through these big hotels and they bring him the clients and the hotel processes the payment and then they give him a very small kickback of that. He has the option to avoid that now. He can promote himself and his business. He can offer 25% sats back and still get double what he was getting before. That's appealing for the consumer. He's cutting out 2 middlemen. And the 85% are also taking their first steps into Lightning. A few months ago, I was in Redding, California. I spent some time there. I was living there for a few years. But I spent some time there. I was able to onboard 18 businesses to accept Lightning payments and issue Bitcoin rewards, making Redding, California, the #1 Bitcoin accepting city per capita than anywhere else in the US in a matter of months. Now, then we came to Austin. In a few weeks, we have 30% of one of the most popular streets in Austin on a Bitcoin standard. They're accepting Bitcoin payments over Lightning. They're issuing Bitcoin rewards to their consumers. And it's not just restaurants, bars, coffee shops. It could be anything. We're onboarding ranchers, farmers. We're partnering with the Texas Beef Initiative. They're going door to door. They're hitting the farmland, hitting the streets, talking with ranchers. They're accepting Bitcoin. They're going farm to market, direct to consumer. Once again, cutting out the middlemen. Here's how it works. You find a product or service you like. In this case, the business is giving 15% sats back. You can either just save 15% or earn sats back. You open up your wallet. I use Strike. You pay. The business receives the Bitcoin. You receive the sats back and a digital voucher redeemable in store whenever you're ready. It's that simple. The business gets the money right away. You get your coffee whenever you want it. These guys. Give a round of applause for these guys. Oh my God. The best Bitcoin evangelists in the world, I swear to you. I spent some time with these guys. They hit the streets like every day. They go from community to community, door to door, straight up. And they say, hey, you want to learn about Bitcoin? You want us to show you what it can do? I mean, amongst other things. I'm keeping it short here. And they train them, and they educate them, and they provide them with the tools. They don't just talk about inflation, which is, it's a big deal. But they show them. They provide them with something that can impact their lives right this second. And it makes sense for them. And I was talking with Chimbera, and something that just kept coming up that's also kind of paradoxical is the fact that it's about trust. The most trustless monetary network in the history of the world is about trust. At the local level, the community level, it's about trust. You need to show them. They need to trust you. You need to utilize and leverage the relationships you have. Maybe you know some business owners. Maybe they don't want to hear about central banking, but they want to hear about something that can help them now. It's about trust. The proof of work that these guys have done, they've effectively mined El Salvador. They've hit the ground running. They've shined a light and set an example for not just all of El Salvador, but South America and the entire world to show that it can be done if you have the right tools. It's incredible. If there's one thing that I could leave everyone with today, it's that the tools are out there. We need to spend a little less time shitposting on Twitter, a little less time listening to podcasts, a little less time watching videos, arguing with others on spaces. Get out there, get out into your community, show people in your community the tools, proof of work, mine your city just like they did. We got to get off our asses and get out there. TikTok, next city block, let's fucking go. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. So who's got a question for Michael? Right over there.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
A question. I'm an old guy. I realized that we're working on a 1920 at best banking system. Everything is being pushed by technology and digital. So absolutely, the banking system has to change. But right now, even here in El Salvador, we are still using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange in the few places where it's being done, but always in reference or relative to another currency, whether it's a dollar, whether it's Japanese yen, or whether it's the euro. What would it take? What does it need to happen for Bitcoin to develop intrinsic value, in itself, and be a true medium of exchange versus always being in relation? What does it have to happen in your opinion? I'm asking you to pull your crystal ball out, and when will this, and it's about adoption, I understand, but I would like to hear your vision on when and how Bitcoin will develop intrinsic value and quit being referenced to other currencies.
Right, yeah, good question. So the way I kind of look at it now, there's this massive canyon, there's this chasm, this huge gap in understanding. How do we get from the legacy financial system to Bitcoin safely? And then how, maybe eventually, do we decouple from the legacy financial system entirely? Whenever people look at Bitcoiners over let's say the past few years, it looks as if we're like walking on a tightrope across the Grand Canyon, like balancing. But slowly the tools are being provided, like Strike, for example. Like you said, you have different solutions that are leveraging the Lightning Network, leveraging the Bitcoin network, but still settling in dollars, right? That's kind of building a bridge between the two sides. And it's going to take time. It's for sure going to take time. Right now, and maybe it's like one of those glass bridges that people are still freaked the fuck out. Like you've seen those videos where like, they're afraid. But eventually that bridge will build, and then eventually, in my opinion, that bridge may just fall entirely as people are safely on the other side. And that'll happen one by one, business by business, individual by individual, consumer by consumer. It'll take time. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I would say to that. I mean, it might be a while, but there will come a time as well, like there are people who say, well, why do you want to spend your Bitcoin, and so on. But it's like, one day you might not have a choice. If enough people cross over to the other side, no one's going to be accepting anything other than Bitcoin. If we have more of these hyperinflationary crises over time, then that's going to be the only show in town. And it's up to us to build that bridge right now.
Woo. Excellent. Anyone else? Up the back, okay.
Hi, Michael. I think your product and service is amazing. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about the compliance component. I know businesses have to report on taxes as far as, like, for example, me, I get a Denver recycling bag fee that I have to report on it quarterly. So how is this going to tie into kind of the tax reporting structures on the local levels in the communities, or does it even apply?
Yeah, so I guess again, you can kind of piggyback off that, is that there are a variety of services on the business side that can enable businesses to leverage the efficiencies of Lightning and Bitcoin while still settling in dollars if they so choose, without any sort of taxable implications there. Or they can do a combination of both. We're having a lot of businesses right now that are accepting the Bitcoin, and they're keeping it. They're just keeping it. They're just holding it. They're like, oh, I was already going to buy some anyway. I've been wanting to get involved. Let me just do this, and I'll just hold it. At that point, it just gets counted as income, just like always. In terms of the consumers, now if somebody was actually spending their Bitcoin from their Lightning wallet, let's say, there is a taxable implication there. But again, kind of what he was saying, there is this bridge between the two at the moment where you can use Strike, you could use Chivo, and you can leverage all the efficiencies without any of the taxable implications. And yeah, I think there's going to be more people coming into that space and providing those types of services, and I think that'll kind of create the bridge until we can figure out the legal aspects or and so on. So it's a nice way to navigate that, I think.
Yeah, what is the biggest obstacle you find when you present the idea to business owners? What do they fear that they're maybe slow to adapt this?
Initially I thought it would be the Bitcoin stuff, but actually majority of the businesses that I've spoken to, it's almost like they're ready for a product like this. What I'm finding is things like POS integrations. They're like, how do I manage my inventory? How do I do this? And that'll come with time. We can only do so much right now, but Groupon, we're sort of similar to Groupon, not really, but effectively people would buy the product or service. They would show up with a little QR code, voucher. I mean, they made it work then. I'm sure they can make it work now, but that's probably the biggest obstacle, the biggest thing I get from people. I've actually been surprised how many people are like totally accepting of all the Bitcoin stuff. Like they're totally cool with it, and they're looking for a way to differentiate themselves from the other businesses. Like a $2 off happy hour special, like boring. $2 in free Bitcoin whenever you buy a beer during happy hour, that's cool. So yeah, I would say it's been surprisingly easy, but yeah, the biggest thing is the POS integration stuff.
Anyone else? I've got a question if no one else does. No? Okay, let me throw a question at you, Michael.
Oh.
Obviously, I think it's a great presentation. I think it's a cool product, and perhaps it's the right time for this kind of thing now. My question would be, and I guess it's more like a historical aspect, that we've seen, as an example, companies like Bitrefill during 2017 and even now, they were going crazy during the bull run, right? Everyone's buying, everyone's feeling wealthy because they're spending some sats. And so I guess my question is, how would you deal, would this work during a bear market? Or are you reliant on, let's say, the strikes of the world to make this work in a bear market?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's whenever it gets down, well, there's the consumer aspect, and then there's the business aspect, the merchant aspect. If the merchants are really bullish on Bitcoin, if the price is going down, first of all, they could use those dollar services, but let's say they couldn't. That would be interesting. And at this stage, how much of their sales are actually going to be in Bitcoin? And that's something that a lot of businesses say. It's like, how many actual sales am I going to get with this? I'm just down to hold it, But ultimately, sometimes I look at it as, let's say you have like a 30% drop in the price of Bitcoin, like like Bitcoin does. I kind of almost look at it as the businesses can give a 30% discount and just wait for it to come back up over time. They're going to hold on to it. And it's like, once you see the 30% rise, it's like they never even gave the discount. So there's some things there that I'm still kind of working through, some possibilities. But I think that'll definitely be a hindrance to some degree. But fortunately, at this stage, and hopefully into the future, we do have these fiat connections where they can easily manage their risk on their own. They can do 1% holding of Bitcoin, even though they received a transaction in Bitcoin. They can allocate 1% to Bitcoin and 99% to cash. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, Stefan.
Yeah, not to be bearish overly, it's just more like to reflect. Obviously, in a bull cycle, things are all going crazy, all the numbers are going up, and what does it look like in a bear cycle? So, any other questions, guys? Anyone else? No? Okay, well, I think we'll call that then for this session. Everyone put your hands together for Michael. Thank you.